So here you are, a leader. You may be an aspiring, newly hired, or transitioning supervisor. This training is meant to help you get started on the right foot. This training helps you develop your leadership style and learn to adapt to the unique personalities and expectations of your team members. You will also learn about communication and the weight your decisions carry. This training emphasizes staying informed and involved to more effectively move your team forward while nurturing a positive workplace culture. What do you think of when you hear the words leader, supervisor, manager? You may have had positive or negative experiences with past supervisors. Think back to these leadership examples. What about them would you imitate? What would you avoid? As a supervisor, it is important to gain a strong understanding of your direct reports' personalities. Some employees will react to stressors like change or work challenges in different ways. They will also communicate and interact with each other differently. In fact, there are recognized personality categories across which we all tend to fit. Leadership styles are also divided into categories. This list commonly includes authoritarian, participative, delegative, transactional, and transformational. Authoritarian leaders take the reins and clearly define direction and expectations. Participative leaders include employees in decision-making. Delegative leaders divide up tasks and give creative control to employees, typically based on team member skill sets and strengths. Transactional leadership rewards efficient completion of organizational goals. There are direct consequences for poor performance. Transformational leaders ask team members to pursue a shared vision, which they champion and support. There are pros and cons to each leadership style. First, identify which style most fits your tendencies. Then learn to apply different approaches based on organizational, employee, and external stakeholder needs. Which of the 5 leadership styles best describes your own management approach? What type of leader do you want to be? Keep examples of role model leaders in mind as you develop your own leadership persona. Maintain your own character. After all, you are the one chosen to lead, but you will have new boundaries and responsibilities when you don your manager hat. When identifying your leadership style, give thought to your organizational and time management habits. What worked for you before may need to be adapted, and you might need to unlearn some things to succeed. What will communication look like in this new role? If you are an existing employee moving up, your colleagues suddenly become subordinates. Some may have been in line for your new position. Regardless, relationships shift. How you establish authority is crucial. You must take time to reflect on your written and verbal communication practices. It is vitally important to understand that each decision you make sets a precedent. Your authority means that every action affects policy. What you put in writing becomes record. School yourself on existing policies and practices. When making changes, clearly communicate the why behind your decision. Be ready to back it up. Doing this without confrontation or micromanaging others takes time to learn, but regardless, your reasoning should always be transparent. Still, difficult conversations are a fact of supervising people. A truism is that you cannot last in leadership if your goal is to be liked by everyone. Your employees will not always perform adequately. Part of management is providing constructive feedback. How you communicate tough messages matters. One strategy is to assume best intentions first. From early guidance to improvement plans to termination, each should be communicated with empathy and clarity. Professionalism in communication involves knowing what to say, how to say it, and following up on verbal communication immediately with written documentation summarizing the meeting. Choose a method of communication appropriate to the situation, whether email, phone call, and so on. Active listening is another key supervisory skill. Being an active listener helps identify and humanize the root cause of problems. The whole workplace dynamic changes when leadership truly listens to employees. Active listening built into workplace culture improves employee morale. By modeling this, you help to break up silos in your workplace. Silos occurs when employees or teams stop communicating effectively with each other, resulting in lower productivity and different interpretations of the organization's mission, goals, and policies. You are now an ambassador and steward of your organization's mission and vision. Do you know what the mission statement is? Do you agree with it? Depending on your situation, you might be in charge of writing or revising the mission. To do this and then live that mission, you must first know your organization's purpose and goals. This typically involves knowing your customer base and listening to them. Community involvement is a great way to expand your relevance and reach while inspiring your team to be innovative and responsive to the needs of external stakeholders. Customer service and creative thinking go hand in hand with prioritizing professional development. This training is proof that someone valued you and invested in your growth. As a supervisor, make education an expectation for all employees, including yourself, moving forward. This can be formal training, in-house workshops, focused coffee chats or toolbox talks, or simply making time to routinely learn something new. While pursuing training, don't neglect educating yourself and your team on legal considerations in your work. These often blindside new leaders who may have been mostly oblivious to litigation concerns and optics in their previous role. You've examined your leadership style and your workplace's mission. Do you know the team? Can you move your team forward and effectively assign tasks? How well is everyone working together supporting the mission? Do you know their skills, goals, and performance history? Exercise a healthy curiosity about all these areas before diving headfirst into delegation. As you do delegate responsibility, which is an absolute necessity, check in with your employees and learn how they handle challenges. It also should not be taboo to talk about non-work activities and aspirations on the job. Professionalism should still be maintained, but knowing your employees as whole people and allowing them to get to know you can enhance team dynamics. Involve your team members in strategic planning and goal setting. Task them with collecting industry outlook data to inform long-term objectives. Gaining buy-in on directives helps involve your work group with the why of initiatives early on. Team involvement here helps avoid the feeling of working under top-down mandates. When you do move forward with initiatives, have a clearly communicated plan on how and at what stages the new process will be assessed for effectiveness. Employee morale and productivity can dip dramatically when teams perceive a cycle of discarding new approaches. Involving your work group throughout the process, up to acknowledging when a strategy doesn't work, will help offset this. As you move your team forward, give thought to succession planning. Who will step in if you have a long-term emergency or are promoted? What plan is in place to mentor employees and prepare them for supervisory roles? It's never too early in your new role to begin exploring these questions. Now that you've given thought to moving your team forward, consider workplace culture. The existing culture may be one where diversity of backgrounds and opinions are valued. Equity is a priority, and where all involved are aware of and support inclusion towards a sense of belonging. Then again, it may be a highly toxic work environment with a demoralized group of employees. Regardless, this is your boat to captain, and you set the mood from now on. If meetings were inefficient and drawn out before, you will work to make them meaningful. If employees were being poorly managed before, you will inspire them to do their best work. And what's more, you will celebrate their successes. If employees neglected their personal wellness as a habit, you will help them see that focusing on their mental and physical health will lead to a positive, productive, safe, and enjoyable work environment. In other words, now is the time to help address negative outlooks or improve on what is already in place. Do not underestimate your influence over workplace culture. It's likely that you have hit the ground running. Onboarding into a leadership role, especially one that was recently vacated, is fast-paced. Make sure you take time for self-reflection. Think about your interactions with others, the mission and objectives of your organization, and your role and responsibilities. Then, never stop being reflective. Lifelong learning starts in that headspace. If you need a mentor and do not have one, get one. There is nothing worse for an emerging leader than to have questions and not having someone to ask in a safe space. It shouldn't be expected that you know everything, but not asking and moving forward in ignorance is also not an option. Do not neglect yourself. The secret to career longevity in a leadership role is self-care. Moreover, how you handle your health and personal matters helps determine how those you supervise approach work-life balance. You are now armed with several keys to being an effective leader. You have explored your own leadership style and considered traits you would like to adopt while moving your team forward and fulfilling your organization's mission. Clear, consistent, and empathetic communication is at the heart of nurturing a positive workplace culture, and this involves active listening and awareness of stakeholder needs.